Hello, good morning. I'm Hippie Banger and welcome to my channel. If you are watching this video, you're likely interested in decluttering your home, but perhaps you don't know where to start. Or maybe you're just stuck on a particular room or category of items that you're probably feeling a little bit frustrated and maybe even a little bit embarrassed. So I thought that I would create this video to maybe give you a little bit of inspiration, motivation, and even a little bit of confidence boost, because I admit some of the things I struggled with may come across as pretty silly to some people. So here are 5 things I struggled to declutter from my home, why, and how I feel about it now. Yes, believe it or not, I used to be someone who at one point wore makeup. The key word here being used to. It's been probably around 5 years since I last left the house with it on, excluding Halloween events. But for some reason I still chose to keep it around for so long, just wasting away in the case I had it all stored in. I had palettes and sticks of eyeliner and lipsticks in a wide variety of colors, and literally none of it went to use. And I just felt bad about having them around, because some of them I spent quite a decent amount of money on, and I thought it would be a shame to just throw it all out. Overall, it took about 3 or 4 rounds before I finally was ready to let go of all of it. And some of the more lightly used product I gave away to friends who I know would appreciate it, and I did end up throwing out more the heavily used product. The only one that's still in my possession is this Urban Decay palette. I paid $50 for it, and I decided to pass it off to a friend who was with me when I bought it because it's still in really good condition, and I couldn't bear to just throw it away. And she really liked it when I bought it as well, so I felt she could put it to better use than I could. Loose leaf paper, lined paper, notebooks, sketchbooks, even grid paper. I had a massive amount of both used and unused papers just taking up an ungodly amount of space in my home. They were filling drawers scattered across counters and tabletops. I even had a laptop that was just buried underneath a massive pile of paper garbage. Surprisingly, a lot of these papers were much harder to get rid of than I had initially expected. There were a lot of old doodles and sketches and a lot of papers with stuff already printed on them that I didn't want to throw away and waste, because I thought I could eventually use them someday. I did eventually get rid of everything, and I threw it all into the recycling, so I guess that's a good thing. All of the unused papers and partially filled notebooks I donated to members of my neighborhood Facebook group who needed them the most. And the rest of the sketchbooks I no longer had any use for were tossed into the recycling as well. Looking back on it, even though this was fairly recent, I don't even remember what was in those notebooks anymore, so I can't say that I'll be missing them at all. Okay, so allow me to explain what the wall is. Before I moved out of my parents and into my apartment, I had a bunch of unframed pictures taped onto my wall, so when I moved, I wanted to replicate it. And while I loved it then and couldn't wait to add more to it during my time here, I actually started getting kind of tired of it. So I decided to take a few things down just to see how I liked it, and I actually do. I'm still not completely satisfied with it, but I definitely think it looks a lot nicer than the cluttered collage mess that it was before. I don't miss it now, but of course I can always put them back up if I decide later I want my art wall back. This one is kind of odd, or at least it is for me anyway, and that's because I'm honestly not really a sentimental person. Of course, there are a few select items that do really mean a lot to me, but for most items sitting around that might be perceived as such, they just don't mean a whole lot to me on a deep and personal level, and they end up just taking up a lot of space instead. But the thing that always got the better of me when it came to dealing with this category was the sense of guilt I felt every time I even considered getting rid of an item because it was given to me by someone as a souvenir, or it was given as a gift or something like that. I didn't want them to think that I didn't like their gift or that it was an inconvenience to me. And I feared the day that they would come about and ask me about the item and I wouldn't have a very good answer to give them. However, what I came to realize was at the end of the day, they're just things and I can do whatever I want to do with them. And getting rid of them doesn't mean I value the person who gave them to me any less. So I did decide to keep a few items that truly do mean something to me, and perhaps I'll go through those items with you at some point. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested to see. But for the most part, yeah, I gave most of these items away. I sent quite a few things home to my mom because I figured she would want them more than I do, and the rest I donated. By far, this is the silliest one of them all. I don't even know how to explain why I kept these. I had the boxes from all of my previous phones, from my speaker, my mixer, my camera, even my first laptop. And I had kept them all in a drawer and they just lived in that drawer, not really doing anything or serving any real purpose. I think one of the things that made it so hard to get rid of is the design on the packaging, because as you know, as an artist, I really love really nice design, and the one especially for my iPad had this sort of psychedelic design on it, and I thought that looked so cool. I want to keep that and maybe put that on my art wall. Well, I never cut it out and I never put it on the art wall, and it just lived in my drawer for years since I had bought it. And so I eventually decided, okay, this is getting out of hand and I need to get rid of these items. And so that's what I did. I eventually did take them all out to the recycle bin, and it was actually quite difficult to let them go. I actually stood out there for I think a minute or two before I finally put it all in the bin. And I know it sounds super silly and stupid, but I don't know, that was really difficult for me to get rid of. But after getting rid of those, I found it a lot easier to get and sort through and part with pretty much everything else. Like, that was the hardest thing. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it helped give you the motivation to get started or to keep you going. Remember, this is your journey, and what anyone else thinks ultimately shouldn't matter when it comes to you and your own happiness. If you did enjoy the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel. That would be really appreciated, and I can't wait to see you guys next week.